Hi, my name is Stanley Chan, and this is my Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert Self-Nomination Mix. Just an introduction about myself. I'm a second-year biology teacher at Howard College, New Zealand. There are three reasons that make me believe I can be an MIE expert. Firstly, I use Office Mix extensively in classroom teaching environments. I used both flipped and blended classroom strategy in my lessons. Secondly, I use Office Mix as a tool of reflection on my teaching practice. The feedback from my students and colleagues after watching my mix provides suggestions for my content delivery as a teacher. Lastly, I promote the use of digital learning tools with my colleagues at Howard College. I've talked to my colleagues on how to use Office 365 and OneNote, and recently I presented an hour Office Mix workshop at a New Zealand biology and chemistry teacher conference. A fun fact about me, many of my students think I look like Kim Jong-un or Russell's from the movie Up. Before talking about what I want to be an MIE expert, I want to share my journey as a teacher discovering Office Mix. When I finished Teachers College and started teaching, my first year teaching was full of compliments and suggestions. For example, this is a thank you card I received from my Year 12 biology class last year. It was heartwarming at first, but then I was a bit put off by some of the photos. The one thing that worries me the most was, why am I always talking? Upon reflecting on my teaching techniques during the holiday, I realized that I spent a lot of time during the class lecturing my students. In an ideal classroom, I should be spending a certain amount of time settling students down, carry out a do now activity, and do the role. Teach the students for a short duration of the class, get the students to do an experiment or work collaboratively, and lastly, carry out some form of formative assessment and summarize the lessons. But now when I look at my teaching from last year, I probably spent most of the class time teaching, and sometimes I left no time for hands-on activity or formative assessments. I was basically stealing my students' learning time for my own lecturing. So the goal I set just before the start of this year were to reduce teaching time, change the classroom from teacher-centric to student-centric, and that I want to create a learning environment that is about them, not about me. I also want to minimize energy expenditure, but also bring the elements of fun and engagement to classroom. My primary focus is that I want to find a way to minimize lecturing, but also deliver teacher content in a fun and dynamic way. After discussing with my mentor Steve Martin, he recommended me to try out Office Mix. What caught my attention first was that it was a free add-on for Microsoft PowerPoint, a program that I am very familiar with. It also allows me to create interactive videos on existing PowerPoint and share them through the cloud. Other awesome functions are also included, such as addition of audios, videos, and digital inks. Lastly, it benefits me as a teacher because I can include quizzes, polls, and apps to my mixes, so I can get some form of response from my students after they have watched my Office Mix. My first mix was about cellular respiration because I wanted my mix to be different to others and also making it more engaging. I recorded myself going to the gym doing some cardio training. I learned how to take video of myself and also how to use video editing programs such as Final Cut Pro. I thought it would be cool if I made this into my intro video. In the cellular respiration mix, I also tried to talk over my content teaching with animations. Although it took some take, but the end product was fantastic. My second mix was about photosynthesis, and one thing that was hard for my students to understand was the different cycles in photosynthesis. This inspired me to try and annotate the light and dark cycles during photosynthesis with combinations of animations. The use of stylus made my mix more interactive and more personal. Another mix I made was about ion formation in chemistry. I got this idea from watching Dora the Explorer, where Dora always paused after asking a question to the audience. I thought, why not display ion formation questions on my mix, tell my students to pause the screen and let them do the questions. When they resume, I will go through the answers with digital annotations. The result was incredible and my students enjoyed the digital interaction I had with them through the cloud. So what did I gain from Office Mix as a teacher? For me, there are three things that I believe Office Mix has helped me as a teacher. First, I personally enjoy spending time to design and construct a video while adding some personal touches. I like to think about ideas that I can add to my mixes to make them more enjoyable and engaging. The second thing is the feedback from students. My initial responses were good, but some students thought the mixes were too long and boring. This kind of responses from students made me reflect on my delivery that I have never thought about. What I consider to be important for their learning may be too much for them to digest. How can I trim my mix to meet their demands? How can I improve my delivery to keep them engaged? The feedback leads to my next content creation with Office Mix. What can I learn from my last creation and make my next mix better? This kind of feedback loop made me realize that Office Mix is an instrument of delivery. It helps me to improve my content delivery as a teacher. It is an instrument of reflections. It helps me to seek suggestions and feedback from students so I can improve as a teacher. And lastly, it is an instrument of inspiration. The tools in Office Mix and students' feedback inspire me to create exciting and engaging mixes for my students. It also allows me to inspire my students in scientific learning. Here's some of my student feedback. I liked how you use diagrams and videos of your face explaining everything. Great layout of content. I liked how easy it was to understand because you didn't talk too fast. It was very descriptive, informative. Your video is so kawaii, and this is my favorite comment, beautiful face. I was first inspired to use Office Mix by my mentor, Steve Martin. He's an MIE expert that encourages me to transcend my teaching with the usage of Office Mix. I'm very grateful of Steve's influence and knowledge on digital learning, but I would also like to join the MIE community, meet with other MIE experts, and be inspired by their passion and dedications in digital teaching. I want to become an MIE expert because I want to share my experience of Office Mix with others alike, and hopefully I can inspire them to try something new in their teaching practice. I also want to share my ideas on how to make my students engage and focus on mixes. Sometimes digital teaching can be daunting, but with the ease of use in Office Mix, there is no excuse to be creative and imaginative. I hope that being an MIE expert, it opens door for me to pursue innovations in digital learning. Thank you for your time for viewing my self-submission mix. I hope you guys enjoyed that. Here are the links to my mixes that I have used in my teaching. Thank you.